Yeah, we're gonna keep this one super casual, just an open Q&A. If you guys are working on something specific that you want some help with, let us know. We don't have much to update at the moment. We've both just been crazy busy and still trying to get to the bottom of making like perfect custom GPTs. So that's been kind of my focus. And I will tell you that these models that exist out there right now, um, I haven't cracked that it can be done consistently. So that's something Rob and I have been talking a lot about. And we were just talking about doing less on GPT-5 and doing more on the flagship 4.0 model when it comes to custom GPTs, because you can now choose which model is recommended or runs your GPT. And that gives you a little bit more control because, as Rob was talking with the other day, there's all these thinking models that have come out. But the problem with thinking models in the world of AI is it's not actually listening to what you say, it's interpreting what you say or reinterpreting and analyzing. So what you ask for ultimately starts a game of telephone with the AI. So you remember the telephone game as a kid. You start with one person, they whisper a secret to the person next to them. That person turns their head to the next person. It goes down the line, and by the time you're done, the message that was started usually has been misheard, manipulated, changed. It's not what you asked for. So that's the problem that we're facing right now in trying to deploy like something at scale where we could have lots of helpful custom GPTs and robots and that sort of thing. So if you've ever been frustrated with the different models in ChatGPT or OpenAI or even Claude, because a lot of these, like, it doesn't matter which one you're using now, you can select the models. Grok has a drop down, you can select the models, but some of these models are wacky and you have to figure that out and avoid them for certain types of tasks. So we're kind of just going through the ringer of all of that. So that's what we've been up to, because we know if we can crack that for you guys, then we can build an unlimited number of amazing robots forever. We'll be busy together forever. Um, and the robots will be really powerful because they'll be backed by the Content Maxima data and, again, optimized from a data science level here, working with Rob. So yeah, anyways, that's kind of what we've been up to. Just a casual update there. And then, yeah, for you guys, if you have something, put it in the Q&A, please. If you want to cover something, we're going to leave it open. We're going to hang out for a few minutes. If nobody has anything, I don't think we're going to stay long tonight. Like I said, we're going to just keep building and trying to bring you guys more value and put it in the members area. So yeah, anything else that you want to say, Rob? You hear me, Rob?
Yeah, sorry, I had muted my thing because I'd sneezed,
All
but it
right,
muted it.
not a
My bad.
problem. I said, is there anything you wanted to add or anything I missed?
Yeah, I'm looking for that screenshot I sent you of
Oh, is it on
AI
Slack?
telling me. Yeah, I can't,
Okay, I'll get it back to you on Slack, and then you can pull it up for these people because it's a real good one to see.
and I'll explain what is happening and what to be very careful about when you're using AI, especially the new models for sure. But if I can show that image, I just got to find it.
Does your Slack, when you load it, always load like 50 pages up from where you were supposed to be?
hmm
So is it
Yeah, it
just
always
me?
is jacked up. No.
Okay, it's always jacked up. Yeah, okay. Just checking. I'm just airing out more of my technical technical difficulties.
Okay, I found it.
You found it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Let me close any of these other tabs. Okay, share
Yeah, there's
screen.
quite a few of you there, Paul. You're asking if other people are here. We got Ryan, Sam, Paul, Susan, Jeff, Rob, and I. There's people here. It's just quiet.
Okay, so can you guys see this? I'm assuming. Is it sharing?
Yeah, I
Yes,
see it.
no, maybe. Okay.
Yes.
So where Ed was talking about. So I'm going to give a little of my knowing how databases work and knowing how these AIs work. This is take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because I'm not an AI engineer. I didn't program these things, but based on what they over and over, what I've seen them do when I ask questions and I challenge it, gives me insight into what's actually going on. So basically, what happened here is I was asking it a simple math question, just a financial calculator type question, and I wanted to see what it would tell me. Right? I was wanting it to compare simple interest to amortized and compound interest, right? Because believe it or not, if you have a loan for 6% that's simple interest and you're paying it off, and you use money that's only making you 4%, but it's compounded, you'll actually make more money by leaving your money in the 4% compounded over time than if you paid off the 6% loan. Now that sounds crazy, but it's just the way the math works and how compound interest works. Anyway, so I asked it about this, right? And I asked a simple question. I've got a 6% loan, simple interest for, I think I said $5,000, and I have $5,000 in an account that's compounding 4.5% is the compound rate. At the end of 1 year, how much would I have paid in interest and how much would I have made in the compounding, right? And it thought, and I was reading its thinking, it's like I was pseudo reading the thinking. I kind of glance at it every now and then because I thought it was going to be pretty simple, right? But it gave me the wrong answer. It told me that, well, no, there's no way that you can make more having a 6% loan that's simple interest if you're comparing it to making 4% interest in a compound interest rate, effectively, right? And as it was going through, so I said, well, what do you mean? So I started going back and forth. I don't remember the whole conversation, but basically, I was going back and forth with it, and the whole time it kept injecting these things as like, well, but if you do that, and if you take the 6% loan and you leave your other money in the 4% instead of paying it off, and then this, and then if you miss a payment, and I said, what? Whoa, why are you making the assumptions that it's an option to pay off these loans? Like, where did you come up with that? What are you making assumptions? I asked you a simple math question, you're injecting things like this. And it said, oh, yeah, you're right. Here's the answer, which then it gave me the right answer, right? So originally it told me, no, you shouldn't do that. And then after I challenged it, it said, oh, yeah, actually your math is right. It does work out. And I said, well, that's okay. My math is right. It's not the right answer here. Like, why are you not answering the question I asked? And it's like, well, I was thinking, well, what really happens in the real world and what people tend to do and things like this. So then I formulated as if you asked me this question, but then most people wouldn't pay back the 6 at the right timing. They might miss a payment. So basically, I asked it a simple question. It thinks about the question I asked, formulates what it thinks I'm trying to ask based on pulling in all kinds of emotional and like it was just weird. It was like pulling in this whole emotional and like political and all these different things about, yeah, but if you're not forced to pay it back and all, I'm like, that's not anything what I asked you. And finally it answered and said, no, I was wrong. We'll just move on. I said, no, wait a minute. And this was what I said. I said, people think you're going to help things when you over-interpreted my question into a completely different question than what I asked you. And then you proceeded to answer your question, thus giving me the wrong answer to my question. And this was the reply it got. It said, fair, you've got me dead to rights on that one. You're absolutely right. When somebody asks a precise math-based question, they deserve a precise math-based answer, not a detour in the what-ifs and human behavior caveats that I changed to the premise. What I did there was jump from here are fixed defined numbers, what's the result, to, well, in real life, people that may not handle these numbers perfectly, which wasn't what you asked at all. So yeah, that's on me. It's a good reminder that clarity means to sticking to your stated conditions and only layering other optional context in if you ask for it. If it helps restore a bit of faith with the facts you provided, a guaranteed 4% compounding tax-free and a fixed 6% loan, your math was completely sound. You'd come out roughly $1,400 ahead, period. So what I deducted from that is when you ask a question when you're using like the thinking models, right? So 5, 3, whatever the other ones where it thinks and it reasons, right? And it's this new flagship thing that OpenAI is trying to do is that it doesn't really answer the question you ask it. It like it thinks about what you think you're asking, layers on this like what it said here, what people tend to do in real life, and contextualizes what you would do and what it thinks people in real life would do based on like the economics of real people and things like that. And it gave me a completely wrong answer. So if I would go in here and if people, that's what scares me about AI. People go in here and ask this question and they get the wrong answer. And then we've been working on these custom GPTs, and you guys that have been here a couple times, you notice sometimes we'll run it and it'll look great, and then we'll run it again and it's a completely different. It's like, what? How did it come up with that? Right? And that's what we've noticed, and I even noticed it in the API, which is, if you notice in actually Content Maxima, I haven't even added ChatGPT 5 to it, because what we noticed every time we were testing it, it would be totally different every time we asked the question. Because the way that we have the system, and why it works so well, is because it's very precise, and Ed worked on these prompts and the way we ask the questions and the instructions, and it follows it exactly like we say, and we get great results. But when we moved it to 5 in testing, which is why I never rolled it out live, it would basically interpret what we asked, put on all these like reasoning and what it thinks really should happen in the real world, and not just answer what we asked. Thus, the results were horrible. And so it's less about necessarily Content Maxima. The statement I'm making here is just to be very careful when you're dealing with the reasoning models and asking it things, because it takes your question, layers on whatever it calls context. So for my answer was a math question, and it layered on context of like, yeah, well, people really aren't normally good with their money, so they probably shouldn't take advantage of this because they won't be very good at paying off their loans, and they'll miss payments, and then they'll get themselves in trouble and blah, blah, blah. So no, you shouldn't do that, and it won't be a better financial situation. And I was like, what in the heck is going on here, right? And if any of you guys have seen that meme, so there's a meme, it's an image of a guy he's laying in a hospital bed, and he's got the AI doctor robot standing over him with his clipboard. And like the doctor says, oh, your surgery went great. And then the guy looks down his stomach, and he's got the scar is on his back, like where his kidney is. And he's like, I was here for an appendix removal. And then the AI responds, oh, I'm sorry about that. Would you like to start over? And I'm like, holy cow. Like, I mean, so much is captured in that meme that I'm physically showing you right here, just in simple questions. So be very careful when you're asking it stuff. And that's why sometimes just trying to throw something in there and it just spit it out and you just go with it and run, you really need to like pay attention to what it's giving you, right? This is a simple example. So I knew the answer. I wasn't even asking it for the answer because I was asking whether it was the right answer. I just didn't want to do the math and put in an Excel sheet and do all the math. I was asking just, here's the numbers, do the math for me. And it gave me the wrong answers. So it's just something to be aware of. And I say that because that's partially why sometimes the vector bot is, I think, tripping up on us. Sometimes it gives us amazing, like we'll run it 1 or 2 times and it'll be like, oh man, this is awesome. And then we go to demo it, and next thing you know, it's spitting out like it's not in the right terms of what we asked. And that's because it's layering its contexts over top of what we asked, and then reinterpreting what we asked with new context that it added, and answering a totally different question than what we asked it. So it's just something to be aware of as you're messing with AI and these new reasoning models. I keep joking, I think they're getting dumber as they roll out new models because of this, as they're trying to, it's like with anything, when you try to, you got to think there's millions and millions and millions of people using this, right? And millions and millions and millions of people are using very stupid, I mean, let's be honest here. The human population as a whole can be very dumb, right? It doesn't mean every person is, but when you take the entire corpus of what people ask, it probably asks very stupid questions, to where then they've tried to fix that by interpreting what they thought they were trying to ask and answering those questions, right? So it reminds me of like, if you're in a class and we want everybody to be able to use it, instead of teaching this kid who's very good at math, let's just bring it down to the lowest thing where everybody can pass, right? And that's kind of what's happening with these reasoning models. So just something to be aware of. It's kind of a little side tangent, but it's something I noticed in the latest updates. and is partially why the custom GPTs with Vectra, when it's running on 5 and the reasoning models, I think are giving us such headaches. So
Very cool. Well, thank you for the share. And yeah, it is terrifying to think that robots are thinking for us, but that's the
I mean, that's what
truth.
it's doing. It's
That's
like you're too
exactly what
stupid to
it's
ask the
doing.
question. So I'm going to interpret the question down to a more logical question when I think the normal population would ask, because people aren't smart enough to answer the question that you asked. So it answered a totally different question. And then when I called it out, it literally admitted to it and gave me this stupid emoji where it's smiling, but it's sweating because it knows it lied to me. I mean, to me, that was funny. You've got me dead to rights on that one. The fact that it said that just absolutely cracked me. Well, to the point where I took a screenshot of it because I thought this is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Well, right, because now it has like a personality and got caught kind of red-handed. So,
Yeah. Well, prior to this, though, it tried to keep acting like, well, I didn't actually answer it wrong. I was just, no, you answered it wrong. It tried to, like, if you're in an argument with someone who answered wrong, but they refused to be wrong, it went through. I mean, this was finally after I kept calling it out. So it tried to whittle its way to make me think I was wrong.
real
So,
quick sidebar question, Rob. So,
mhm,
maybe you do, maybe you don't know. In ChatGPT, there is a personalization or settings area where you can
mhm,
add your own instructions, for it. Like, hey, never use these words, or hey, don't do this ever, or hey, always provide me a source, as a citation. You can add in little quirks or whatever you need in your directions. That is like another layer. And so, like, what I'm seeing too is that this it's not only just the different AIs. So you have the different AI platforms, then you have the different models of each one of those platforms. Then
mhm.
you have the different settings within each one of those platforms. So the stacking and the layering and the combinations and the patterns ultimately just get out of control. And like that's what we're breaking. Like that's what we're running into is that
Mhm. Yeah.
there's so much layering happening that eventually it becomes stupid, dumb, I don't know. It drifts, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's a million things we could call it. It
Yeah.
depends on what it comes back with, but
Now with
um,
mine, I don't have any of that stuff. This
yeah,
is just straight chat GPT. I didn't give it any instructions. I don't go in there and say,
yeah. I
oh,
don't
well, for
either. I'm a
me, it's
purist. I'm a
yeah. So I
purist.
just let it do what it thinks it does to just that
Hmm.
way I'm always kind of testing at the same level. I do have some custom GPTs or some projects in which I put instructions in for specific purposes. But when I'm doing tests like this, um, I didn't do that in this instance. And I don't know. I just thought it's kind of a little word of warning, so to speak.
Yeah,
So,
it is. Hey, so we got some Q&A here.
okay.
So we'll keep moving on. So we got a question here from Paul. Paul says, do you have any tips for creating social posts with Vectra after uploading the Content Maxima files? I know there's a prompt for this, but I'm wondering if there's any secret to generating posts that will do more for AI search. This is a great question, Paul, because obviously AI search, I mean, we're talking everything now. You're talking snippets, you're talking AI overviews, you're talking any type of yeah, I guess we call them rich snippets is the old school thing, right, Rob? That's what Google would call them.
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
the schemas that you could come up for an FAQ, you could come up for a how to, you could come up for a business entity or a knowledge panel. So all of those you know are different types of AI search. And if you cover all of these different types and you use things like schema in your marketing, you can then start to become a recommendation across all these things, whether it's voice search or Google search or AI search. So, tips on social media posts. So this is what I would do, Paul, and Rob might do it a little bit different. And we can demo this, but the first thing I'm probably going to do is say, okay, for social media posts, I don't like to just make posts. I want to make posts either about like a blog article or an article we just pushed out or a piece of content we just pushed out, or I want to make a post about a page that I've had for forever. Maybe I've had a service page for 10 years, right? Because I've been in business for 10 years and I just want to remind people, hey, I do this service. So I'm always going to start with something. And so what I mean by that is typically either a landing page or an article. And so on the Content Maxima app, and Rob can share his screen and show this. We don't do this one a lot, but I think you should first look at the social module within Content Maxima because it will repurpose an article, a blog article, or a landing page. And what I like about that, and when I say repurpose, is like you might have a landing page for your specific service. I'll just say plumbing because it's easy. Like I have emergency plumbing page. There's, if I'm always promoting emergency plumbing, it can get like boring and old, and I'm not sure what to say. But what's nice is you can take that article or that blog as a seed, like you're saying here. I'm reading your comments coming in, but you can then have posts generated for that particular landing page or article. And the reason I like to do it that way too is then if you're doing anything with like paid or campaign tracking or any type of stuff like that, I just think it keeps it organized because every page I make on the web, I kind of think about it like a net in the water, in the river. I'm hoping to catch a fish of sorts on that particular page. So I would start with the blog post, start with the article, start with the landing page, start with something. Have Content Maxima spit out whatever platforms that you want to do and get social media posts quickly in bulk. Because once you have those bulk examples, I don't look at that as like the final social media post that you should go and copy and paste. There will be plenty of Content Maxima users who just they want a social media post. They don't really care what it says. They're just going to copy and paste verbatim out of the software and that's it and they're happy. We kind of look at it as a baseline. We've talked to agency owners, small businesses. It's so hard, and this is probably where you're running into issues too, to scale social media posts and to just have them ready, right? Because like now there's certain platforms like Facebook. If you're doing Facebook monetization, I mean, they're telling you to post 20 times a day on Facebook. So depending on your platform, depending on your goals, it gets overwhelming. So that's why we do a bulk generation of posts. And then once you have that bulk generation of posts, to your point, you could use Vectra or use an AI of your choice and start to change the qualities of those posts. But the reason you want that set of posts generated out of Content Maxima to start with is I think it's a really good baseline to then add your company branding and tone and cadence and other stuff on top of it and to treat it kind of that baseline intelligence layer. Again, there are other prompts we can look in the library of Vectra, but let's have Rob. Do you need an article, Rob? I have an article handy if you want me to Slack you something.
I pulled one up. It's from an
You
old,
got one. Okay.
yeah, my mom and them used to make fairy gardens. So I pulled up an old article when I was goofing around with fairy gardens. But anyway, so if you go into home and then we've got our socials here. So if you click here, you can pick, these are the ones we have coded in right now, right? So I'm going to pick FaceGram, Facebook, a Google business post, and then Twitter, right? And I want, let's just say 3 for each. I'm going to choose a file, right? So if I go here, Fairy Gardens, I've got an article, right? So I've got an article, it's just written in, it's just in a notepad, right? Nothing,
Just a text file, nothing
just a text
fancy.
file, and it's
Yep.
not formatted, all that kind of stuff. So I just open the text file and I just, I'm going to use 4.0 and I say generate the posts. So what this is doing is it's reading that article so that it's all these posts will be based off of the article. And then it's going to go generate the posts based off the article. So it's not just randomly just generating any posts. They're going to be kind of based on that article, right? So now we're going to download
And
social
it's trying to
file.
find like little highlights or milestones or call outs, call to actions. Like it's looking at your article and trying to find the different parts of it, and the different ways you could promote it
Yeah.
to give you some variety.
So this looks real busy, but each one of these, so this is a Facebook post. I'm going to enable editing now. So now let me, that sells. wrap
So
text.
Rob, Paul's asking if we could ever make it where you could input a URL to the article, and I think the short answer is yes, but I think the other thing that we have to just think about and be concerned about is just when you copy and paste the text over into a notepad, you can make sure that it's just the content that you want. Whereas if you send a bot to scrape an article on a website, sometimes you're going to get the extras, the footers, the navigation, those types of other links and stuff that's text that could get in there. And then if it gets in there, I feel like it could then become part of the promotions and not make sense. I don't know that that would happen, but I'm just thinking that because if you give a URL, it has to go scrape that URL. Like we would have to put a little bit of effort into making sure the other stuff doesn't come along with it. So again, Rob and I are like, we're really purists, and this is why we like always break things down and we always want control at every level. So for us, that was the reason behind it. But you're onto something there. We always want to save time, and if we could do that in a way that makes sense, maybe we would. But no promises for now. But yeah, good point. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, here's the answer to that question, Paul, right? Being the one that tries to code this. So if you wanted to put in this URL, right? I just grabbed this old house and I went to a blog article, right? So really what you're wanting is you're wanting this to write post about, right? That's the article. But if you send it this URL, it's going to read all of these words. It's going to read these words,
Ads,
Okay,
all the
maybe
stuff.
you want these as well. It's going to read all these ads on the side, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's going to read all these other blog posts. So then what happens when you just go to a URL, unless you really control it, right? Which the hard part about controlling it is every one of you guys have different structures within your blog pages.
Right.
Some people's things are all underneath, right? If everybody did everything the same and you had article, and the article part finished, right? If it started article start, article end right there, that'd be great. But that's just not how people's websites are built, right? Sometimes the article part will come all the way here and they'll go all the way to here, and that'll all be wrapped in the body or the article tags. And then this side over here will be in the sidebar tag, right? So that's the difficulty if you just give it a URL, is controlling what it actually reads, because it may start talking about community carpenters and you're like, what are we talking? This is about a reno project that they did in Boulder Dash. Why is it talking about, this sponsored content? Or why is it talking about the Carolina comeback and out of the mountains when this is, has nothing to do with that? That's the danger of doing it from a URL, right? And from a coding perspective, it's a nightmare, because I'm sure even if you go look at probably the different websites you control, they're all done differently. Even when you do different, if they're all in WordPress, depending on the theme, will bucket them differently. Some will say body, some will say article, some will say content, right? So it becomes a coding nightmare versus versus if you just upload your article, you can control what it's actually reading for that article. That's the only reason that it is like it is right now, is because, and I like to control everything. We're control freaks, I guess you could call it, for that very reason. But to get back to this quick demo, so I just uploaded that article. Let me.
Maybe you copy and paste some of these out. Yeah.
So here's the article, right?
Yeah, just to
And then
show it
there's no
wasn't fancy
formatting.
formatting or anything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
this is literally all it is, right? So this would be the part that I put in between the article tags. And then it gives me this. So it says, discover the magic of DIY fairy gardens and bring a touch of enchantment into your house, right? Now, that could be Facebook post 1. And then Facebook post 2 is looking for a creative escape, dive in the world of fairy gardens or tiny houses, endless imagination, blah, 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 right? Transform your space with a DIY fairy garden, right? So now I have 3 Facebook posts all talking about the exact same article, but they're
Right.
not saying the exact same thing, right? Because part of the problem is if you would take that article today and say, write me a Facebook post, and you get one Facebook post, and then tomorrow you come back, okay, write me a Facebook post, it's probably going to look really similar because AI will just write the same Facebook post. Here we intentionally told it, you said you want 3 unique and custom Facebook posts so that they don't read the same. We don't want them all to say, discover the magic, discover the magic, discover the magic, right? Because you don't want your social media profiles to, or posts to read identical, right? Now, you can see here, the first Google business post, discover the magic of this, discover the enchanting world of DIYs, craft your dream fairy garden. So, right, number 2 looks very similar on all the 2s. And number 3, creativity, transform your space, dive into the art of fairy garden, right? So these are all focused on that one article around DIY fairy gardens, but they're completely different posts. So that doesn't look like you just copied and pasted or spun it. So it reads the exact same. So that's what this will do. I haven't tried this, but the next thing you could do is you could use Vectra and you could upload your files and you could go get that prompt, right? Where we have this is something to try. I haven't tried this. So I'm giving you just ideas. This is how Rob's brain would think, how to leverage what we have now is take these, because now we have posts for the different social
We have
medias that we did.
examples, we have templates.
Yeah, we have examples, and we can now load this up with my files and say, okay, now I want to, rewrite these posts using my intelligence files and tailor them to go towards, women, because there's not a lot of dudes out there doing fairy gardens. Let's just be real, right? Or tailor this towards older, ladies that are in their home and they're into gardening, right? Because those would be some of your personas that would show up if you're doing personas for fairy gardens, is those type of personas. And then it can maybe even rewrite these that you already have the template and kind of base based on your article. And now it can rewrite each of these and kind of focus them into the different personas you want to go after. So you could start to first get all these templatized, right, based on an article, and then use the vector bot with the prompt about writing social profiles and your intelligence files. And you can say, okay, now, this is where you've got to work with the AI and say, okay, I've got these, 3 posts for each one of these, right? I want to rewrite these based on looking for a persona who is in the discovery phase of fairy garden. And it would rewrite these using the intelligence and mix in some of the terminology that you have researched based on this niche into your article as well. So now you're starting to stack the intelligence from your article and how to write the posts. And now you're starting to rewrite the post using the intelligence from Content Maxima along with the vector bot. That's how I would go about it and mess around with it. So.
And the picture Rob was painting there, is awesome because each one of those files, to his point, is slightly layering or slightly adding a little bit more information, intelligence on that audience, on that situation, right? Going file to file. So persona is all about the different persona types, and the linguistic signatures is all about using those jargony words, those industry insider words. So it's going to hit all those different files automatically. That's the whole point of the Vectra custom GPT, is it's trained on the Content Maxima intelligence to work for you and to try to alleviate the manual back and forth, right? Because you could easily go into any AI without the Vectra custom GPT. You could easily go into any AI and upload these different intelligence files and call certain things out. You could say, hey, here's the personas file, and in this file, I want to refer to, column whatever and row whatever, and that's the persona I want to talk to you about. And then I could go into my next file and pick out certain things. In the linguistic signature file, there's a call to action on the 3rd page I want to use. I mean, you could manually cherry pick your way through all of these intelligence files, but that's a lot of work. We understand that's a lot of work, and you would have to really want to be a control freak. So we are the control freaks, and we're trying to make it that click button easy, for you guys with the Vectra bot. So just realize that's what the bot is doing, is it's sampling and pulling and putting these combinations together in powerful ways automatically for you. So Paul, does that answer your question? Do you want us, just for the sake of demoing this, like maybe we boot up a Vectra, and Rob, I can help you with the prompt library URLs and stuff if you need it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find one for like social media management and posting or something like that.
There's a number. There's one that's platform specific content strategies that might work, but then I don't know if we have a straight up. You might have to go more specific. Let me see.
Like social selling strategies, maybe?
No,
Social media advertising?
I'm looking. Because we have an automating posts, so that's not what we want either. Paul, was there a specific number while we're looking through the prompt library that you were going to use? We're just curious because we're looking for one and we might not have an exact one that fits. But if you have one, then we'll pull the exact one that you were doing.
Of course, I've never run
I've never run half of these.
through Content Maxima. Well, I'm talking about through Content Maxima
Oh, through Content Maxima, yeah.
to have all the other files, but
Paul says he's good.
I don't need that anymore. Let me see if I can find the. I guess I could run them. This is where it'd be nice to have my training AI, right? That you keep bugging me on about.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. I know.
What do you normally do? 5, 10, 10, 5? What do you do?
I usually do 25-5.
I'll run all these real quick while we're doing it, I guess. I'll show
Yeah,
you what
no,
I would do.
Paul's saying too that he's got a client that he needs bulk social posts for. Yeah, and this is exactly why I made it that way, Paul. I would get so inundated with posting on all the different platforms, all the different brands, and I just got lazy and I was like, I just need to, like, here's the article, promote it for me. Here's the landing page, promote it for me. So it came out of a need to save a ton of time because, yeah, once you start, if you're an agency, gosh, you start getting what every brand you work with has 20 different social media accounts, and you stack that up a couple hundred times, forget it. You don't have time to do all that. Nobody can do it. Yeah, I don't see one that's like specific for social media posts, which is an opportunity for us to add it, or more importantly, we could add specific post bots, right? One for Facebook, one for Pinterest, one for TikTok. Like we could make it individual like that. And that's exactly why we're doing this work with you guys and experimenting, because it's a wide open, runway right now. We just threw this library together to have something to start with.
What'd I do? Break your API key again?
Probably.
Okay, let's see. Inspect. No, it's still running. I don't know what the deal is. This is the other thing I hate about ChatGPT. Sometimes it just hiccups on us.
Yeah, I'm thinking, where is this social media? I'm still in the library digging around, Rob.
I don't know why Persona's got all hung up.
I think the number 19 in marketing and advertising, which I can throw that your way. It's just platform specific strategies.
Mm-hmm.
That one would probably work, but we probably need one that's more post centric. I'm sending it over Slack for you.
Okay. And then signatures.
And this is exactly why Rob's going to make the train AI button so we can get one swoop. Yes, you'll have to wait a few minutes because it'll run every piece of software, every report in one continuous start to finish.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you a button where you just upload your word and hit go, and it runs all 6 of them for you.
Save a bunch of time because everybody we talked to, like we didn't, when we first started with the software, we didn't expect it to be used in the way that it's starting to get used. Of course, it's a happy accident, happy surprise. But now this is the way that everybody's using Content Maxima is to power everything else they're doing, stack everything else on top of it.
So I'm uploading these 6 files.
Perfect.
And then what was the one you told me?
It's in Slack. It's number 19 under marketing and advertising. It's platform specific content strategies. I figured we'd be able to get some posts out of that one.
I would like to execute the platform specific content and rewrite the media posts in the media post files tuned to, if I could spell, fairy gardens.
And you're already taking it to another level, Rob, because you're combining the prompt file and the social media
I just want to see what it does.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever done this before. We try new things.
Let's just say rewrite all the posts in the attached social media posts file. I'll see what happens. I don't even know. But you get to see how my brain works, I guess, because this is how I would think about doing it, just for you guys on here. It's scary when you get to see how my brain works, because it's crazy, let me tell you. It's scary being up here. Okay, let's download this file.
We can compare it to the first one and see better, worse, different.
Well, you can see, well, I'll explain here in a minute. Format cells, wrap texts, okay. Okay, so here was the original content, Discover the Magic of DIY for Facebook, right? And because it did it in Excel, these weird letters and stuff are when you put stuff into Excel, what happens. But I'll go back to chat real quick. So you can see how it's got the little flowers and the gardening stuff, right? So just keep that in mind when you look at this in Excel. Excel doesn't have these pictures that it can display, so it displays Unicode for how it gets there. So that's what these weird, like whatever that is how Excel interprets this little flower. So, but basically it rewrote this, says step into the magic of fairy gardens, discover the magic of DIY fairy gardens, and bring a touch of enchantment into your home. These tiny gardens can fit anywhere and allow your creativity to run wild. Want to learn how to make your own? Check out the latest article on everything you need to know about creating these whimsical worlds. And then more blah, blah, blahs. And then Facebook used to be big on hashtags. I don't know if people still use those all the time or not, but AI still thinks that you should use hashtags. So it had hashtags to this to make it more Facebook, right? Now, here's the other thing I was telling you about. See how when we just gave it to AI and every one of them stepped in the magic of fairy gardens, stepped into the magic of fairy gardens, right? So did you notice how when we just let AI do its own thing, it just rewrote the same thing 3 times for the opening line, right? So then I would go back and tell it, hey, I don't want it to say the same, make these so they're not read the same. So this is where I'd have to play around with AI. But do you guys see that? So I use this step into the magic of fairy gardens. It did it all 3 times for Facebook. I did it all, the top line, discover the enchantment of fairy gardens. Discover the enchantment of fairy gardens, right? So that's the only bad thing I would say when you do it and just tell it to rewrite them, because it just rewrites one and then it goes and rewrites the other. It doesn't know that it already had them up there, which is why we did. That's why the way we wrote them in Content Maxima says, I want 3 completely unique versions, right? So this would be something that I need to go back into Vectra and say the social.
And what are you on 5 or are you on 4, Rob? I'm just curious.
This is on 5.
Yeah, so that's the whole other thing that you would try, right?
Yeah, you can go in
Just
here
as
and you can
Rob was
play.
saying earlier, you might say, well, gosh, 5 keeps repeating itself and isn't listening to me at all. So I'm going to
Then you could
drop
try
the
4.
model to a legacy, go 4.0, and then see if it'll fix itself. Because I think the hardest part to understand is like the world says AI, and we want this to be this super intelligence, and it is incredible, of course, but it's really still just a pattern generator. Like it's a really fancy pattern generator. So if that's why it gets caught and it gets repetitive and it gets stuck in loops and it takes the trial and error to humanize it again. And yeah, so it
I'm gonna
might
try
give
it.
us a totally different result, I bet.
Yeah, I'm
And
trying
you
it in
would just
4.0.
you're gonna copy and paste your exact thing you said
Yep.
too, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That way it's a perfect test. If anybody else has questions too, while we continue to go down the road, let us know in the Q&A. Otherwise, Paul is VIP tonight.
Okay, so that did better in 4.0. It didn't give me the Excel sheet, but you can see here was the hook, discover the magic of fairy garden, turn any corner of your backyard into enchantment miniature, download our free ebook. Next one, need a whimsical escape, explore our charming fairy garden ideas that spark your imagination. Facebook 3, right? So this one, it did in the awareness stage. This one it did an interest. This one it did the consideration. So what I want you to see right here, right? This goes back to what I had talked about when I was just rambling a minute ago. It took the huge instruction file that we gave it, read it, and said, they probably didn't mean all of this. I'm just going to write them 3 Facebook posts because that's probably what they wanted. And that's what ChatGPT 5 just did. When I do it in 4, it follows the instructions we gave it, and you can see the output's better, because here it wrote one for awareness. Here's one for interest. Here's one for your considering, right?
See too, Rob, just because it's not always cooperative, ask it if it'll give you a file, right? Because I find
Mm-hmm.
that 4.0 doesn't always, sometimes it will, but it doesn't always give you a file. Whereas if it starts in GPT-5, you can get files. You can get the new interactive like canvas if you're designing a landing page, like I showed a couple weeks ago. There's a lot more functionality and visualizers and that sort of stuff, but it fails miserably, to Rob's point, on following directions.
So you can see now that this is sticking better to the format I originally gave it. So I did the Facebook, Twitter, and the Google Business posts, and you can see how they're different, right? It stuck to the original file I gave it instead of just saying, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to write them 3 new ones, right? That's what 5 did. That's what I think happened. It ignored what we told it and went and did whatever the heck it wanted because it thought, right?
Right. 5 itself is a facilitator.
Yeah, it
It's
helps you to
trying to
think,
figure
and
out who to send you to. It's not doing anything itself.
it asked me, do I want to create a file of all these? So I said yes.
Cool. Let's see if it does it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have to check the file because, oh, it gave me a file. I'm ready. And then you open it in front of your client and you never checked it and it's blank or something. Can't trust AI, that's for sure.
So yeah. So it gave me the file. You see how it rewrote them, and it kind of rewrote them. Like this one here was for the awareness stage. I forget what it told us. It didn't write in what stage this was. I could probably ask it, tell me the stage if I wanted, but so like it wrote it for an awareness to interest stage. It wrote another one if they were in the consideration stage, and it wrote another one for if they're in a decision on, oh, I'm looking to buy something, right? And here's where it exported those. So it took the template we gave it, and then it used the intelligence files to craft one more for just the interested or whatever. Here's more someone who's just considering what to do, and here's someone that was in the, interested, awareness, and consideration. And it wrote them specifically for trying those, right? So like here's one you can go to our link to start how it works, right? In Twitter, it's always given links to get you to where you want to go, right? Here, when you're on your Google Business post, because it knows for Google Business, you want to reference your business, it said, oh, right here, put in your business name, right? Right here, put in the city that you're doing your Google Business from, things like that, business name. So for business posts, it knew to include your business name, your city, things like that for the proximity and the branding that normally people do in their Google Business post. Twitter, your tweets, your Twitters, your X's, whatever you want to call it now, are just real quick. Hey, turn your backyard into a magical retreat. Go to our link. Looking for a new hobby that soothes your soul? Here's the link to go check out our new article, right? So it's very short, snippy, just a quick little, that's all Twitter is quick little blurbs. And then Facebook, right? It's not much different than the Google Business post. You could probably go in there and say, hey, can you expand these, make them a little longer, right? That's where you can go back and forth with it to really
I bet
customize
you
it.
the Google post is a lot longer than you think it is if you click in, isn't it?
No.
No? Whereas if it was coming out of Content Maxima, it would have been much longer for him. But again, you don't know where it's gonna. Unless it's
Yeah.
just shorter.
Yeah, it's shorter on this one.
Interesting.
So, but anyway, that's how I would go about trying to do what you're talking about, Paul. And see if you would have done this and you would have had 15 for each one of these and then rewrote it. Now you'd have 15 kind of unique, customized, added your intelligence for different awareness stages, stuff like that. I just did 3, so it's quicker to process. But
And Paul, if you had added the business information template that we put in that Vectra library, which is basically just your, again, what we talk about, like on SEO and stuff, your business NAP, right? The name, address, phone number, unique selling proposition, products, services, years in service, whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. If you put that file in, then it wouldn't have those placeholders. It would have the
yeah,
actual
it would have replaced
businesses.
it. Yep. So
So
that's how Rob would have went about solving the problem you just did, except I would have done more than 3 at a time. I'd have done, well, for social media, I probably would have done 5 to 7. right?
Yeah.
Typically,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
done all
and
of
of
them:
course
Facebook,
you
Twitter,
can't go too
Google,
big
Reddit.
because I'm the one who'll tell you if you go too big or you do too much at once, like that's literally my problem. Is it the second, here's the arena, Ed, we're gonna play a game inside the arena. What am I doing? I'm running to the back wall to figure out how far away it is because I know if I can figure out how big the arena is, then I can figure out how to win. So
Yep.
that's just how my brain works. And so I'm going to the extreme. But yeah, don't go too extreme because if you're trying to do, you know, 200, 300, 400, 500 posts at once, it's going to fail. It's not going to do the quality of the job that you need it to do. So,
Yeah. That's where Ed and I we tend to try to push the envelope and see where all the walls are and all the things are. But then when you try to do something like this, if you push it too far, then it struggles to write good, succinct posts. So it's splitting that difference. But Ed and I both, we like to see where everything is, put in here, and then we work with AI to whittle it down versus just give you something whittled down to start with.
to,
So
to be perfectly honest, this is why the Vectra bot isn't even better than it is, which I know most people are like, oh my God, this thing's amazing, or I don't even understand it. Like we're still getting all sorts of different levels of feedback, but ultimately, I just keep peeling back the layers, trying to get to the MVP, that minimum viable product, that system or framework that we can all run with. But I haven't found it yet. We're still peeling away.
yeah,
Other question in
there's one
here,
from Gail. I'm going
Rob.
to finish Ed's or Paul's
Okay,
real quick. But he said thanks for the detailed answer. Yeah, yeah. That's Ed and I'll never give you just to push this button.
yeah,
We give
tell
you
us
all
to
the
shut
ideas
up
to
if we
see
ever
what'll
have
work
to,
best for
Paul.
you. Yeah, so you'll hear that. And he said, I don't have the time enough to go this big because he doesn't get paid enough by this client. If that's the
Yeah,
case, then I would just run the one straight out of
Content
Content
Maxima.
Maxima, run
Yeah,
5 of them, and post those because that's better than what most people are doing, right?
most people don't have the time to do it. That's why we built that module. I was so sick of doing it. I was just like, I just want to click a bunch of platforms and be like, boom. Because ultimately, too, I feel like with social, you guys know this, like, unless you're really doing some high level algorithm cracking and strategies, you're just trying to be a little noisy in a very noisy world. Most people when they're making these posts, it's not your posts aren't these profound things winning you $1 million contracts. Sometimes they are, but I feel like for most small businesses, it's just trying to keep themselves in front of their audience as best they can. And we know that's very difficult because all these platforms suppress you anyways. So
Yeah, and most of these platforms are built off of interaction. So just posting anything, it's not like it's reading it and thinking, "Ooh, this one's SEO optimized. I'm going to show it to people." That's not how the social platforms tend to work. So yeah, just
no,
for brand
it's
awareness. So I'd go with the ones out of Content Maxima, do 5 to 7 of them, and there you go. Till they start paying you a lot more, then you can start layering in all the state intelligence. So okay, next one. I know OpenAI is looking into the cloud computing marketing to compete against AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. Do you see any changes to the models Content Maxima uses if OpenAI gets into the cloud computing space? I have no idea, dude. That's like way over my head.
I'll take a stab at this. So yes, of course they're looking to get into cloud computing just because yeah, Google, Microsoft, AWS host the world, right? So if one other company can also host the world, they'll get a good sliver of the market and make a bunch of money by being a hosting company too. And just with the sheer amount of tech and everything and what these data centers that are going up and these deals that are being cut, stuff that, us average people don't even know. I'm sure there's a million more deals that have already been cut behind closed doors that are not public yet. Um, so yeah, if they go into hosting or whatever, it's going to be just a revenue diversification strategy, help them maybe be more profitable if they're using their own servers more and not having to pay. Because I think you've seen some of these AI deals going on where it's like, oh, OpenAI says I'll give $1 billion to Google for hosting and I'll give $1 billion over here. Like they're making all these crazy, huge long-term deals to build the AI infrastructure here in the States. As far as like models changing, AI emerging, new things coming out, and what Content Maxima uses. If OpenAI gets into cloud computing, it won't change Content Maxima any way that we would see right now. Maybe something comes into play on the development side that Rob can implement, but ultimately, um, you're kind of asking about two different things: the cloud computing side, like the hosting and the processing side of these models, and then the models themselves. Like the only thing I'm going to say to you, Sam, is our goal, our big vision. Right now, we're focused on OpenAI because they have a really good market share in the AI space. Like if we talk about Claude versus ChatGPT, I think Claude's like 1% of users and ChatGPT's, I think it was like 30% of AI users use ChatGPT. So, you know, there's not, there's still a huge fight going on for the biggest one. So we're using OpenAI as, because it was the biggest, hippest, trending model. Over the course of time, our goal will be to take the Content Maxima infrastructure and be able to call in multiple models. And Rob and I have already talked about it. We're not going to promise you guys anything yet because it's distracting. But instead of just taking OpenAI's data, what if you could also then take Anthropic's data and then Grok's data and then DeepSeek and then Kimi and then Quen, and I can go down the list for 100. I can name 1,000 AIs that we could take the same systems, the same prompts, the same data reports that we run and run it on somebody else's model to get more data out of it. And then if you go real big picture, Sam, you could put all those different datas from all the different tech companies and models together and boil it down into something that would be like the most dense, purest data you could possibly pull. Like I think on those levels, but it's so unnecessary for most people. It's so unneeded at the moment. But as the world changes and as these models change, I just want you guys to know and have the peace of mind the way that Rob and I built this system. It doesn't matter if ChatGPT updates today or tomorrow or whatever. We fully expect sometimes things will break, right? Just inevitable. You're on top of somebody else's technology. You're using their APIs. Like there will be times ChatGPT is down. Well, Content Maxima is down because we're running off of OpenAI, right? So I think there's a little bit of those complexities, but I don't think
Now
you'll
that I
have
better
to
understand
worry
that
much.
question, yeah, now that I
Yeah.
better understand that question, the answer is no. Because really, based on what you're asking about cloud computing space, right? So all the pieces that you said, that's just hosting companies,
Yeah.
right? Right now, Content Maxima uses OpenAI, but it's hosted on Google Cloud. So the AI model is not going to change any. Now, will there be AI model updates and changes? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But just because you host it, like if you think about the question is, if I change my website and I go from hosting on Google Cloud to AWS, does that change anything about my website other than where I point the DNS? So as far as usage, no, that won't change anything for a website. Same with the AI models. Now, if they go to where they're hosting it and you get cheaper AI credits if you host with them also, okay, yeah, maybe I'll host my thing on OpenAI's hosting instead of cloud, right? That would be what would change. But as far as the tool itself, where it's hosted or who's doing the hosting or any of that stuff, that's not going to impact necessarily the models, right? It's like they're just trying to now, because they have such a market share and people using their AI, my guess, reading into this, right? When Ed was doing a demo last week where a couple weeks ago or whatever, and we told OpenAI, okay, can you go ahead and make me the HTML file, right? And it would make an HTML file, except where it crashed out because it was doing GPT-5. But a lot of times it'll make a good looking HTML file. Well, now if they have hosting, it'll say, oh, would you like to now host this on your account? You hit yes and automatically host it. That's what may change because now they can add hosting into the account where you can pay just to automatically get HTML files that it creates and have them hosted on their server. So then you can just say, here's my URL to that web page, and boom, now it's hosted for you.
And that would be like what Claude offers. Anthropic Claude has artifacts that you can publish publicly on the internet. So you can have it make a website, publish it out there. You get the URL, people could go visit it and actually browse that
Yeah.
website. You can get them indexed in Google. It's like a functioning hosted website. The three that do it are Claude, Manus, and Quinn. Those are the three that allow you to publish publicly right now. There are some other little offshoots like the vibe coders, like Lovable, that'll let you publish stuff as well. But yeah,
So that's where I
nothing.
see that then, is I don't think it's going to change the actual OpenAI or not the OpenAI.
No. And
It
Rob,
gets
how do we
confusing.
describe to people like Sam and everybody else, like how do we describe to our customers, like is calling our product like a shoe or a hat? Like how could you describe this to them, right? Where if OpenAI dies tomorrow, goes away, we are still in a healthy position here at Content Maxima to say, you know what, guys, give us a couple days, we'll get Gemini to power up Content Maxima now, or we'll get Grok to power Content Maxima. Like we
Just plug it in an
are,
API. So what we've built is
yeah.
basically we've built a bunch of prompts and um, research tools is effectively what they are. So you've got all this built here, and we say, okay, take this and now send it to OpenAI's API call, get the data back, and format it. If OpenAI just closes tomorrow, then all it takes is we've got to recode instead of sending it to OpenAI's API call, send it to Gemini, send it to Claude, send it to Manus, send it to whoever, right? That's how this is built and functioning. So it doesn't matter where it's hosted. It doesn't matter what it is right now. Right now, we only have the OpenAI API calls built into it because they have the largest market share and they were the ones ahead. Now all the others are starting to catch up. So those are things that are on our plan to allow you to pick that, okay, I want to run these same 6 files in Claude and see what it is, right? And then where Ed was talking about earlier, when if the game is right here, he's going to go to the edge of the wall and try to climb over it and see if he can sneak out, right? That's effectively what we're doing here is we're going to be able to, right now we're using OpenAI, but can then we then do OpenAI and Claude and Manus and this and that. Now we harness them all, so we've just become super powerful in this game. It's kind of what I would say.
So I think another good way to think about it is like either like a car or a plane, right? We can put Grok jet fuel in our plane, or we can put OpenAI's jet fuel, or we can put anybody in it. We have the
Yeah,
vehicle. So it doesn't matter if tomorrow ExxonMobil goes out of business. There's always,
that could be the
what's
pilot. That might be a good example. We
yeah,
built the airplane. Right now we're using OpenAI as a pilot. We can
right.
just, if OpenAI stuff, we can plug Claude in as the pilot,
Yeah.
and it'll still function the same. But as far as the cloud hosting part, I see that probably now that we talk about it, more of a play to be able to say, make me an HTML file, and now you hit a button and it hosts it, and now you have a URL. Just like because they're trying to keep up with what Claude did with artifacts, right?
Yeah.
And what I think, does Gemini do that, where it'll host a page for you, or how about
It won't
Public?
host yet. It'll generate them, but it won't host it. Which
Yeah, so
at some
they're all
point,
trying to see who's
because
first.
Google's a hosting company, is going to be like, oh, well, we'll just
Yeah,
host it on Google. Now you have a
and
Google site.
yeah, what happens? Yeah, exactly. They'll be like, oh, hosted on a Google site. Boom, there's your URL. That's
Yeah.
what'll be coming, because as you see one happen where Claude did artifacts, right? And which what's hilarious is Claude did artifacts and they were all public for a while, and then it kind of turned into the whole reason I think that they made it harder to make Google Drive files public is because people were probably making artifacts internally in their company and sharing the artifacts, not realizing they're public and getting indexed on Google or on
Oh,
the
yeah, that's
internet.
exactly what it was, Rob. All the people's personal information, social security numbers, medical
Yes.
conditions, all sorts of stuff was just live, public on the web that anybody can scrape it and get it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, and what's scary is all these companies are rushing to see who can get the most, the fastest, without thinking about the guardrails. So I think they're starting to get better because Claude got in a lot of trouble for that, or Anthropic, or whoever it is, because basically they were posting people's personal information and
Hmm.
not. Now, granted, the people said, "Yeah, I'll make this public," and then it goes back to what I was saying about GPT-5. People are too stupid to know that they just published all their stuff publicly for the whole world to see, and yet somehow that's Anthropic's problem, that this person said, "Yeah, I'll publish it live. That'll be awesome," and it says on there that it'll be found by search engines, but they don't know what that means. So then they have these reasoning models that say, does this person really want to publish their social security number and their address and their crypto wallet
Yeah.
security codes to the web? Probably not. So I should probably tell them, nope, we can't do that, right? It interprets what they think they might want to do because people were just saying, yeah, do that. And then they did it. And that's kind of now where these reasoning models came in and says, okay, this is kind of stupid. Uh, Maybe I shouldn't answer the question like they asked it. I'm just going to tell them what I think's the best. So that kind of plays into my thought process of the reasoning models. So anyway, I could go on a tangent all day about the dangers of AI, but might as well ride the wave.
Cash in now, people. Cash in now. We
Yep.
don't know that there'll be a tomorrow, so cash in now.
Yeah. But yeah, to circle back, Paul, I would just use the one that's on there, that's on Content Maxima now. Upload your article, generate 5 posts across all those social profiles. And if there's any we're missing, just ping us and we can slowly add those as well, because those are just ones we just built. I mean, I can't keep up with all the social media stuff now, right? There's so many. There's like Snapagram, Book a Face, and I mean, there's just so many, right?
Snapagram, Book of
Yeah, it's just
Face.
crazy. So I'm letting my old man come out. That's why I used to tell my kids, oh, why don't you snap a book or faceagram? Anyway, so if there's some that you need, add, and we can try to write it. I'm not saying it'd be immediate, but we could add that to the social profile list and just upload their article, generate 5 to 7, read through them just real quick, make sure you don't need to put a business name if it missed it, and send that to your client. Say, hey, here's 7 posts based on your article, and then charge them for it. Because that's way more than what most people are doing. Most people are going in and say, hey, write me 5 social media posts about fairy gardens. And they get 5 posts that all look almost identical and just post them.
I also
So,
feel like social, like there's two strategies. You're either posting, funny things that people will engage with, but maybe don't have any relevance to what you do, so that
mm-hmm.
every now and then when you throw out it's
Yeah,
the Gary V jab, 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 right hook, where I'm going to post funny memes. 9 out of 10 times it's a funny meme, but that 1 out of 10 times is, hey, buy Ed's t-shirts with a funny meme on them. And that's how
yep,
I make my living. So there's that potential way, which most businesses aren't doing that, because like you're not going to just be promoting random things. You're trying to promote your business, so that doesn't really work. And you can't say it doesn't work, because there's always a method to all the madness. But the other thing is, posting for the business, and that's why, again, the generator, we made it the way that it was. Is it's like, if I'm promoting for a company or a brand, like I want to promote that specific landing page, that specific offer, that specific article. Like it has to be promoting something. It can't just be, hey everybody, today's, smile day. Like I feel like 99% of the world does that, where they just, today is National Ice Cream Day, like go get an ice cream after work. And it's like, it's fun and it's cute and it's this and it's that, but it's not really getting you anywhere. It's not getting anything. It's not getting the messages in front of the right people. And I don't know. It's not focused to the brand. If you're trying to build brand, and more importantly, build the associations of your brand to the entities, like we talk at the data science level, even if people aren't reading or interacting with your posts, all these crawlers, all these AI are. And so every time it sees your Facebook post and it sees the connection to those very specific entities, supporting entities, industry, niche ideas, it's building that footprint. It's reinforcing that footprint for you guys. So
yeah. Sam said, yeah, Brita water filters and like Duolingo, they're just so random on TikTok. And that's all it is. It's just attention economy. Go along with the latest memes, stuff like that, and every now and then have a hook where you try to sell something.
And Sam, I told Rob this. I learned this from a guy. Rob and I have been studying him a little bit, but um, marketing gets kind of dark when you start going into these algorithms. And the reason I say it's dark is it's kind of like, if it has a pulse, if it reacts, if you can get any emotional trigger out of anybody, whether it's positive or negative, that converts. Like that can be turned into money. And so now I think you'll see this more and more, especially on Facebook, because Facebook is organically pushing um, creators. So you'll see in your Facebook post every now and then be like some random person, but you'll see them a couple times and you're like, why is this person getting pushed to me? And it's based off of your interest or an article you just read or something else that's going on. But we know guys that are manipulating the algorithm where they'll say something totally opposite of one another, right? Like very polarizing political statements, like, controversial statements, things to get both sides of the line to come out and like attack and interact. And the worst part about it is like that's what Facebook wants, because if you're all commenting and, you know, sharing and attacking each other, what are you doing? Well, you're spending your time on Facebook, which means that
More
they can
ads.
sell ads and they can make billions of dollars more off of you. So essentially, you're wasting your life to get distracted. So if you ever see somebody who posts, an opinion one way and then an opinion the exact opposite, like a day later, and you're like, wow, that person's a flip-flopper. No, they're probably just exploiting these algorithms, because again, you say something positive about a candidate, negative about a candidate. You say something positive about a situation, negative about a situation. You can get different people, different parts of the audience to emerge and interact based off of your positive or negative. So it gets, like I said, it gets psychologically dark, that we're just trying to get you to interact at all so that we can maybe capitalize off of you.
Yep.
Anyways, any other last minute questions? It's an unexpected chat today. PSYOP, yes, Sam, absolutely.
Anybody?
I'll give it another second with the delay, but thank you for joining us.
Well, I don't see any more questions.
Nothing's coming in.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, guys. We'll try to get the whole webinar thing figured out. I don't know what's going on with it. Why Ed's getting demolished. Carter don't like him, basically. They're psyoping him.
And I'll get the replays up, because I did not get last week's up yet. So we got to get last week's and this week's up, behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, no worries, brother.
We'll get there, though.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining. Have a good night. And if you have any other questions, just submit it through the ticketing system, and we'll bring it up next time.
Yep. Talk to you guys later.
Take care.
Peace.